Are TikTok psychic mediums really connecting with the spirit world, or are they just faking it for clout and money? Welcome to the channel. My name is Florio, and this video is the first in our exploration of the world of TikTok psychic mediums. Are they truly tapping into the paranormal, or are they just using clever tricks and illusions to deceive their audience? Those of you who aren't new to the channel, you already know my view on psychic mediums. But as always, I don't really hide my opinion on these grief vampires, but I do encourage you to think critically. Take any information I give you today and make your own decision on yet another psychic medium in our series. All right, and just for a minute, I'm going to be a little bit of a messy bee here. I want to go on a bit of a rambling rant, so hopefully it makes sense to you guys. With this psychic, we're in a new ball game, folks. TikTok and social media psychics, they're different from what we've covered so far. There are so many psychics on social media that it's really just an absolute joke. So bear with me as we work through them bit by bit. We'll do different videos on them. Some of them get their own video, like today's subject. Others will be bunched together like a fast food combo, as many of them start off very fast food anyway. Like I've followed an account because I liked something witchy that they said. Then I get a DM offering me a reading for $5 or $10. So they kind of do that on TikTok until they catch a big break and make it big. Not all of them do make it big, but some of them do. Once famous, they can charge an arm and a leg, like today's psychic, Amie Balesky. Now, let me say, this is not towards a specific psychic, more it's towards all these TikTok psychics. I assume it's a TikTok virus. Maybe it attracts these kind of people, or maybe it just turns them into this, but these psychics are,
She wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts.
Which means what?
Yeah, like major pick me energy I've noticed in looking at these psychics. She's not the first one. There's a bunch I've been looking at. And they have major main character syndrome going on too.
She's the queen bee, the star.
So if you notice me getting like a little catty sometimes when I cover these kind of people, here's my Canadian I'm sorry ahead of time. All right. For example, for today, let me just read you off an initial top hits list I made for Amie. She gets involved in criminal cases, puts pressure on families who are currently grieving to do a reading. This also leads to some clout chasing. She does information collecting before readings, so the classic parlor tricks. She also does ITC readings, and she changes the story of the deceased, trying to insert misinformation on active criminal cases. She also disrespects the dead. She accepted a challenge to prove that she was truly psychic and then backed out at the last minute. And that's also our special guest today, is mentalist Dustin Dean, who has a challenge for TikTok psychics. One more thing, a disclaimer. Everything I'm going to cover is all publicly available information about a public figure and is protected under fair use, free speech, or similar laws of each country. I'm providing commentary, and anything that is not a confirmed fact is either something gathered to the best of my ability through public means or is my personal opinion. In my research so far, it's come to my attention that Amie, some people have said that she is possibly litigious, or she works with people that are very litigious. Some people may have also lost TikTok accounts, which we're going to get into. I fully expect an army of haters to be in the comments of this video, and that's pretty normal for all my psychic videos. So for those who actually watch the content to hear like what the issues are and don't just click on the video to comment without watching it, today's secret question is, we do this for all of our psychic videos, what is your favorite midnight snack? Leave a comment below and let me know. So what we're going to do for this is I'm going to try to leave my face bigger on the screen than the video, like try not have their video take up too much space. So it's even more transformed content that falls under fair use, right? Essentially, I've already pre-recorded my thoughts and like I already did some analysis and stuff, but I wasn't on video. If you're wondering what's happening here, it's just, I'm just trying to cover off more fair use. I do record like different things in my thoughts when I'm like collecting things on people, and that's why sometimes you'll see me add stuff to a video that's just like me talking over something, and it's because I kind of record stuff as I go. So I don't record everything all in one sitting. So bear with me. All right. That's enough of the introduction. So from cold readings to hot takes, let's get to the bottom of Amie Balesky. Amie's biography and holes in her story. So as always, I work through a person's biography and I attempt to work through information chronologically. So what I've prepared here is a mixture from her website, a few interviews I looked at, and her TikTok, which I spent hours scrolling through just to try to figure out a timeline of events. Okay, just a quick note. One, the TikTok app and on my desktop is really annoying and constantly bugging out. So two, I have recordings and clips of things I want to show you of Amie's channel all throughout this video. The audio is going to be horrible. You're just going to have to deal with it. It's best I could do recording it off my phone. It was a huge pain because everything kept crashing. So bear with me on all these clips. And full disclosure here, obviously, I'm not an Amie stan. I don't attend her lives. I don't watch her stuff other than the stuff that happens across my feed sometimes. And the few things that have crossed my feed, I found very disturbing. That being said, I may get a timeline not quite right, or I may be missing some information as wasn't easily accessible. So bear with me on the info here. All right, so Amie's career began in 1995 when she was 5 years old. Amie goes on to say she was diagnosed with Wilms tumor, a battle that ultimately led to the loss of her kidney. Wilms tumor is, for anyone curious, is a malignant cancerous tumor originating in the cells of the kidney. It's the most common type of renal kidney cancer and accounts for about 6% of all childhood cancers. It was because of this tumor that she experienced her first near-death encounter. She says she doesn't remember any of the details of it though. She just knows that she apparently died for a moment. Honestly, I couldn't find specifics on this, like how long was she gone for? Was it on an operating table? Like what happened? She doesn't remember it either. So I don't know. There's a story from like when I was 4 and I got really sick and there was something bad happened too, but I don't remember any of it. I don't remember being sick or nothing. Like that's really young. I don't remember being in the hospital. I barely remember anything from the age of 5 either, to be honest. Anyways, she says that she just remembers waking up with more compassion and empathy. In my opinion, this part seems very scripted. This is normal childhood development. Some kids begin showing empathy for others as early as 3, but most studies say it's usually between the age of 4 and 5. And between 6 and 9, most kids are able to put themselves in another person's shoes. So it's just odd that she'd be able at age 5 to compare her empathy going into the hospital and coming out of it. So again, I just want to point out she was experiencing normal childhood development. It wasn't anything miraculous, as she tries to point out. Let me read you one of her quotes. I became obsessed with not toys, but history, art, and music. Life was an amazing adventure, not a gauntlet of challenges to me. She was 5, guys. Yeah, okay. It's not challenging at 5. Guys, I noticed at this point, me preparing these talking points for this video, I feel like really catty towards Amie. And I've been doing like too many of these psychic exposés, I think. And also just other stuff I've seen on her TikTok that I'm just like, there's just something really bugging me about her. But I think it's not just her. Again, I think it's all the TikTok psychics because I've noticed it on all of them. It's just this weird personality that TikTok has. I don't know. It's very like main character. I'm the most special thing in the world kind of energy.
Yes, I'm skinny, but that does not mean that I was never part of the big and beautiful committee. Good and bad reasons to have a thigh gap. It looks pretty cool. That area will never smell like. Why, hello. Did you know that women get dressed up for other women more than they do their men? It's because we're judgy assholes, and we just want to know how we can look better. I'm a little tipsy. So all these kids on here that are like, I have money. Get your parents money. All the people that are hating on me. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has them, and they're not that important. Hopefully your parents love you. Somebody needs to.
Anyway, Amie then says she began talking to her grandfather who passed before she was born. She told her mother about his visits, and essentially her mother supported her and didn't push back and saying, yeah, sure, you're talking to the dead. Why not? To be honest, and sorry, I'm going to keep interjecting on this timeline here because I have a lot of comments. If I almost lost a child, I would also play along too. Who would yell at their ill child over talking about their deceased grandfather? Like it's not a huge deal. I don't think your parent would really correct you on that. Amie then goes on to say that she would read people randomly at the store and her teachers. They would look at her amazed, all quotes, but she just thought it was, quote, normal. It's really weird the way she has that worded. By 2007, Amie was in high school. She says she would read her friends as well, make prophecies to people about things that were going to happen. She says that she was always the person that people came to for advice. And this is how she words these things, guys. In her early 20s, she began working in sales and goes on to say that her medium ability helped her achieve a lot. She also would do readings for clients from her sales position. So essentially, doing readings on the side. Not a huge deal. She says that this stage in her life, though, brought her gift to her attention for the first time, which is just like, does she read her bio? Like, this is so confusing because she said that she was doing readings for her friends in high school. She even said that she was doing readings for people at the store at age 5, but it didn't come to her attention that she was a psychic.
Sure, Jan.
Anyway, this brings us to 2008. In 2008, at age 22, Amie had her son, which led to her second near-death experience. She says, and I'm just going to quote this, "I remember seeing my grandmother and not wanting to go back because I felt more alive there than I had ever felt on Earth." End quote. But she said that she chose to return to her body because she knew she had to. And then she says her abilities got stronger after that. Her husband at the time did not like her being a medium and called her weird and just asked her to be normal for once. Those are the words that she says he used. They eventually divorced, but I'm really not sure what year they end up divorcing. Either way, she seems happy about it. He's probably happier about it. In 2009, she was released from the hospital after the second event in her childbirth. So I guess she was in the hospital for a while. She doesn't really give too much details on this one. She goes on about colors being more vivid and feeling empathy even stronger than before. What I do find odd is that with her near-death experiences, she goes into a lot of detail of how she felt after, but only one of the near-deaths does she actually give details on what happened. So it seems weird that we don't get the details on what happened, because she says she has 4 near-death experiences, guys, okay? And we hear very, very detailed information on one of them, but she says that one counts for 2 or 3 or something. It's very confusing. All right, let me continue. But again, she says that she was feeling empathy stronger than ever before. And I just want to point out, she just had a child, and it's called hormones and becoming a parent. She says she felt like she gained a superpower after this. I thought she already had these abilities. It's really weird the way she words this. Then she says she did even more medium work after that. Her timeline is a bit all over the place on this next part. So I think she's trying to say that in 2009 at age 23, she found out she had a rare genetic disorder. This disorder is called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Sorry if I say that wrong. Even though she lists this under 2012 on her website, not 2009. So if you're reading her website, I think she just meant to say in 2009 she got diagnosed this. I think she put under 2012 because this diagnosis led to her next near-death experiences. So let's skip ahead to 2012. Also, actually, just a quick summary on this syndrome, the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Just to explain a bit more. It's a syndrome. It's a group of 13 genetic connective tissue disorders. Symptoms often include loose joints, joint pain, stretchy skin, abnormal scars. It's an unpleasant disease, and it is super painful at times, and it can cause issues with organs and strange things happening to your body. There's a lot of odd things that can happen with it. So it's very unpleasant to have. She does have this. I honestly am very sorry that she has to deal with all this. I know how rough it is with chronic pain, and this syndrome can be way worse than what I've had to deal with so far. So I feel for her on that. I want to give a summary of what this disorder is. So back to the timeline. It was in 2012 when she ended up having a bunch of surgeries because of this disorder. She said each one was worse than the next, and I imagine it was. If she was having them back to back, it must have been really horrible. She then goes on to say, and I quote, "During these surgeries, whether it be from sepsis, blood loss, or plummeting blood pressure, I had 3 more near-death experiences. On my last one, I remember looking at the doctors below me as they worked on my body. I could see my mother outside the room. I kept telling her, 'Do not worry, I'm fine.'" End quote. So she says she had 3 more, but then she already said she had 2, and she tells everyone she had 4. I think she's got something worded incorrectly on her website. It is 4. This is the smaller condensed version of her story. She goes into detail about the last near-death experience, the fourth one. Very much detail of what happened, but it involves like brain matter and other things, and I don't really want to repeat it here. You can find the story everywhere online told by her if you want to hear it. It's the only story that she tells of which near-death experience. But anyway, after this last one, she said she felt amazing and at peace during it, like when she was watching her body or whatever. She was in a coma for a week she says it felt like a week, so I really don't know how long it was. She doesn't tell us a timeline. She talks about this part of her story a few times in a few different locations and interviews, etc. In some instances of the retelling, she says she remembers hearing people talk to her while she was in her coma, and she was standing right next to them. She says it hurt when she woke up because her body took a beating, which I'm sure it did. And then the timeline is kind of blank until 2019 when she joins TikTok. Now, again, I'm not an Amie superfan, so I don't know if she ever told her followers about what happened between 2012 and 2019, because she does a lot of lives, so I don't catch that stuff. But she did get divorced. Like I said, I don't know exactly what year that was. It was probably it was before TikTok, because you can see her first TikTok talking about being a single mom. So I don't know when exactly it was. I couldn't find her first husband's name. I think that he didn't like what she was doing, so I'm sure that he doesn't want his name around. She does share a picture of him, which I'm sure he doesn't really like. I'm not going to invade his privacy on there, and any picture I show of him, I'm just going to blur his image out because I don't think that he wants to be part of this world that she's in. Honestly, though, at some point, I would love to hear what he has to say about her abilities and just how much medium work was she actually doing. But we will likely have to wait many years from now for that. Remember, Sylvia Browne, one of her husbands, did eventually out her as well. So back to 2019. Her first video is about her cat. Her next few are spiritualism related, reading the face, numerology, etc. I don't think her videos specifically say that she's a medium. She just kind of talks about doing readings and spiritual stuff. All right, as I was gathering up the clips for this episode, I put some things together. One is her original videos, her initial ones were about spiritualism, numerology, and things like that. In February 2019, she puts a video about her being a spiritualist and why she believes in life after death. I'll play it for you.
Is life after death real? I'm a spiritualist, and from all the research I've done and near-death experiences I've had, I conclude probably so.
Now, my question is, if you were a medium from the age of 5 doing readings and seeing dead people, you would already know that there's life after death. And why would you be making a video saying, as a spiritualist, I believe there could be life after death? Like, you already have those answers as a medium. Do you not? All right, then the next video I'm going to show you, and it was like a couple days later. This is why my opinion, after going through all this stuff and going back through her account to gather you guys clips, I don't think that she was doing medium work until she watched this guy she's about to talk about and started messing with ITC devices and phone apps.
Can you talk to people that have passed away already? This is not sponsored. There's a guy that's doing it. He's on YouTube. His name is Steve Hunt. Look him up. It's insanely cool. Also, there's an app that will let you do it. It's called Necrophonic, and it works. You have to have respect and focus.
I think that she was probably doing readings by the sounds of it. Like, she's doing astrology, numerology, things like that. Like, that is clear in her past videos there. With all of this being said, I did also see that she was on Montel Williams and talked to Sylvia Browne, and Sylvia Browne confirmed her gifts and whatever. And we already know about Sylvia Browne. I've done an expose on her as well. So I'll play you a little bit of the clip of her explaining what happened on Sylvia Browne.
So about 14 years ago, I was on a talk show called Montel Williams Show. Oh my gosh, look, there's me. And yes, I was about 120 pounds heavier. Thanks to Crohn's, it goes away.
All right, I just want to make a quick comment here. One, she's really obsessed with this being skinny thing and showing how skinny she is and how she loses weight. I think she's got to calm down on that. Feel better about yourself. Two, telling people that Crohn's goes away is I just hate medical misinformation like that, because I have my own illnesses and people will be like, oh, you can cure that with diet, or you can cure this. It's just, I hate people spreading medical misinformation. Crohn's doesn't go away. There's no cure for it. You can probably eat a little bit differently and have a better quality of life. Personally, when I meet someone who says that they've cured an incurable illness with whatever thing, diet, blah, 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 that just makes me think they were misdiagnosed in the first place. And I think that's what happened to her. Sorry, I just had to make this like side comment.
I actually wrote into a show one night randomly, talking about how I had childhood cancer, talking about how I have all this mediumship abilities and I don't know what it is, and I just needed help. Guess what? I got on that show, and the Sylvia Brown read me.
Did you not feel like you saw him or you sensed him?
I felt like there was something around me.
So the biggest thing to remember here too, Amie has an IMDb. People have to go out of their way to make an IMDb, and they usually make an IMDb to get more work within the industry. So I take this stuff with a grain of salt because a lot of people who go on these talk shows, I have some friends, they went on Jerry Springer, they went on different shows like that because they were trying to build an acting career, and they went on the talk shows to add to their resume. I know a bunch of people who have done this. All right. So I don't really take it too seriously. Sylvia, God, there's so many problems with her. I made a video about her. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it, of course. So anyway, that's all this information about like, are you a medium? You're telling people that there is no life, and then you're saying, yeah, there is stuff after. Her messaging is all over the place. I think a lot of this misinformation and bouncing all over the place is weird when her main bio story about like how she has these abilities is so rehearsed over and over again, and yet we're finding her like slipping up in all these other areas. I think that's something. It says something. At least to me, I take it as something. In my opinion, this is pretty damning. You guys decide. I'll leave it in her biography area here. I'm not going to throw it into the other sections just because I think it kind of fits with her biography story to put into question her entire story about when she started seeing dead people. Then her TikTok seemed to just be very vlog-like, you know? She seemed to talk mostly about her dating life, living as a single mom, playing with her cat, things like that. I don't think she actually went into TikTok trying to be famous and make money, as I've seen profiles of people who did, and hers just honestly seems like a general girl vlog. It doesn't seem like she started it to make money. She did eventually meet a man, Christopher Furman, and in 2020 she married him. He will end up being her second husband, whom she is still married to as of this date. His name we do know, as he seems to be her manager, although some people have said she has a management company, but as far as I've heard from other people, it seems like he's the manager. He does list himself as the CEO of her company, and he is acting on her behalf in a lot of instances as well, the ones I've been told about, which we're going to hear about one of them later, because of her incident with a certain mentalist. Anyway, the timeline of 2020, he isn't her manager yet. Amie spends 2020 to 2021 mainly doing cooking videos, storytime videos, and 2021 she does a few medium videos here and there, but they're not as often. She posts like multiple videos a day of the cooking and storytime.
Story time, story time, story time, story time. It's story time. Had one cup. Let's make
It looks like they registered her domain in April 2020, and her website didn't show up on the Wayback Machine until May 2021, so that's when it was really created. So her medium business really wasn't fully set up until 2021. Oh, and just for clarity purposes, she went viral doing a video about someone littering. That's when she got her partner contract with TikTok. Then she was featured in an article a little while later for her mediumship work. And that's when she blew up as a viral TikTok medium. For those curious, her about story on her website remained consistent and the same since 2021. To be honest, her story feels very scripted, especially hearing her tell it on multiple videos and interviews. She tells it over and over again. It reminds me of Tyler Henry's origin story, and it just feels off. It's normal for people to change up a word or a syllable here and there, like when they're retelling stories, or even stumble on a thought or a memory. Yet Amie, just like Tyler, it's always a word for word retelling. Personally, when I see this, it just feels really disingenuous to me and just feels very rehearsed. Now, 2022, honestly, my phone crashed and the desktop wasn't loading it, and I already spent enough time scrolling through her stuff, so I decided to move on. Because from 2023 up until today, her TikTok is like 99% mediumship and very much about making money from readings and workshops, etc. All right, so that's her chronological biography. Now let's dive into really the issue with Amie's readings, some of the honest reviews that I found, her disrespect, and the controversies, and that leads to our special guest, mentalist Dustin Dean. But let's get into long laundry list I have of issues. Amie, the ITC Medium. When someone first asked me about Amie, the first thing I found was her doing mediumship reading using a spirit box. All right, for those wondering, ITC, I never actually defined it before. So it's a instrumental transcommunication is what the ITC stands for. For those not familiar, these are the people that use like spirit boxes and stuff to talk to like Michael Jackson. We see it a lot, like Michael Jackson, those channels where they just talk to famous people and then make up crap based on like what the spirit box, which is just a normal radio, tells them. And ITC is like, it's anything. It's not just spirit boxes. It can be like EVPs or whatever. It's essentially using devices. And this is where I have to ask, what kind of medium uses devices? A spirit box, especially, like that cycles through radio stations. The words you're getting are from the radio. And we all know about those gross channels and the crap they do. Well, like she does that too. She uses these devices to get in touch with people from criminal cases that have passed, that were unalived by others, and she makes up stuff about them based on what it tells her. One example is Grant Solomon, and I'm just going to put a picture on the screen here. And the stuff that she's saying is like, oh, well, the box said it, so it must be true. Just to make it clear, just because you say we don't know without physical evidence, that still doesn't take away from the fact that you broadcasted the spirit box saying that and you played it up. It doesn't absolve you of the guilt of the issue at hand here with misinformation and changing history using stupid devices. Like, it's very inappropriate. And for those unfamiliar, Grant, he was a person who was struck by his own car while in the parking lot of a baseball training club. And there's just like a lot of conspiracies around his death, and just her adding to it does not help things. But this leads us into the disrespect that Amie displays to the deceased in the grieving. Exposing the disrespect. Okay, the first one I have here is the grocery cart story. I'm going to try to limit how many clips I show of Amie's channel just in case she tries to use that to pull down the video here or whatever. So essentially, I'll try to like summarize this. She sees a woman in the she sees a woman in the parking lot of the grocery store, and she suddenly has a message or whatever from someone. I'm not giving the story justice because I'm not going to word for word it. But she essentially comes up to the woman and she doesn't say like, hey, I'm a medium. Do you mind if you'll talk to me? Instead, she says, can I ask you a question? And then she just starts going on about the woman's daughter who passed. And then she talks about how the woman was so happy with the story that she told her about her daughter. The issue here, though, is like, I mean, first of all, we're just taking her word for it. But second of all, like, it's just not... It's very disrespectful to come up to someone and just start talking about like, oh, do you have someone who passed in your life? I'm talking to them right now. Don't do that to people. You know, if you want to try to like grift or make money off being a medium or whatever, if you're getting people from the grocery friggin' parking lot, at least start the conversation with, I'm a medium and I have a message for you. Do you want to hear it? Like, don't get up in someone's face and push that on them. It's just completely inappropriate. So I'll try to add like a clip at least of her explaining the way she approached the woman, because I want you to understand it's the approach that's very inappropriate. It doesn't give the person the option to opt out of the conversation. And it's not right the way that she did this.
And I'm like, ma'am, can I please ask you something? She's like, yeah, okay. I was like, do you have a daughter that passed that's between like 23 and 25?
And the thing is, this grocery story too, other mediums on TikTok have called her out for being inappropriate for the way that she approached the woman as well. So like other mediums also noticed it and had a problem with it. All right, the next story that we're going to get into is Rug Lady, aka Katie, I believe her name is. If you're not familiar with the story, I'm just going to link Hannah's videos on it, Hannah the Horrible. And yes, I do realize how strange it is that she recently released a video on the very subject that we're talking about in this video. The timing is just like very kismet. I did get pulled into the story like everyone else, like when it was live on TikTok. But later I watched Hannah and Do We Know Them podcast, their videos on this. And I've since noticed some glaring issues of disrespect by the Rug Lady. The whole situation is very exploitative. And I do agree with the points made by these other creators. Mainly, everyone kind of pointed out that the lady who owned the house, Katie, she got way too excited that there could be a true crime in her backyard. If you know what I mean, like there was possibly a body. Then she cried when it turned out there wasn't a body. And then she started going on about her neighbor who passed and saying that her neighbor was haunting her. She just seemed really disingenuous on this and really trying to become an influencer. Apparently, she also had some weird clout situation in the past with a boy band or something. Either way, it's too complex to explain everything here. I might try to put like a clip of something in. We'll see, but it's a very, very long story. I would just recommend you go watch Hannah's summary video, her first video on Rug Lady, to understand it. I'll also link Do We Know Them podcast. So after Katie's rug incident was over, she then had Amie come as a medium to talk to the ghost of the neighbor haunting her. Now, I want to point out some of the issues with this whole thing that happened with Amie and Katie. I recommend that you watch the Hannah the Horrible video. She begins talking about this incident around the 25-minute mark in this video. Hannah hits a lot of the key points about Amie's role in this mess. Both these ladies are very exploitative of the neighbor who passed. Like, what if family or friends see this on TikTok? I know they said that the woman didn't have family, but she may have had friends. And like, what if it was your friend or relative? Wouldn't it upset you that someone's just using their death to make money on TikTok? They filmed the woman who passed her house. They filmed her house. They look inside her windows, like they film it. The woman was a hoarder, and then they're commenting on this. They're posting it publicly. It was very disrespectful of the person who passed. And the fact that the medium is there doing this, like mediums are supposed to be more respectful of the dead.
They go over to Margaret's house and film the outside of Margaret's boarded up house that was boarded up after she passed away. They film the outside of her house without her permission. Obviously she passed away, but without anybody in her family's permission, anything. That would be one thing. That would be bad enough. That's gross to me. I cannot imagine just doing that and feeling okay about that. These two women go up to the window and they film inside the house. They film her hoarding situation without her permission, without anybody in the family's permission. Now, I'm not showing this because I think it's disgusting that they posted this publicly in the first place, but imagine, that would be not shocking for Katie, but a psychic medium whose entire job supposedly is to respect the dead, and she signed off on this too, and she was with Katie doing this. That is so gross to me. Why? I'm sorry, but hoarding is a mental illness that people legitimately suffer from. It's not just people being lazy. Imagine having a mental illness like that is so physically visible, you know, for the world to see, and somebody after you pass away goes to film it and puts it online. Imagine that is your mother, your sister, or your grown daughter has this, and without your permission, without some bullshit went viral on TikTok without your say, without you getting a say in whether Margaret was part of this story or not, and then somebody posts her mental illness online. Why does everybody think this is okay? Nobody, like, we have lost the fucking plot. Like, why clout comes before anything, even respecting fellow human beings. So Katie and this psychic medium also live streamed their sessions in Katie's house, talking to the ghosts and Margaret, who they think is Margaret.
The rest of the night, the whole video looked like a normal YouTube ghost hunter channel using ITC devices. Classic. It was just essentially a YouTube ghost hunter live stream. Amie relies heavily on the dead bell during this too, which we all know is debunked. It goes off on its own. It doesn't sense EMF. It's just trash. Paranormal Quest debunked it. Beardo looked at it too. I believe Mythos did too. There's a bunch of people who explain the issues with this bell. It's just a gimmick to rip off people. It's actually like set up to keep going off on its own. Like it has like something inside of it that makes it go off on its own. I'll try to play you some clips as well. Dead bell.
Your dead bell debunk, because I think it's important for paranormal teams to debunk for their own credibility. Paranormal Quest went a step beyond that. They basically said it's crap and sent it to me. They're like, yep, have at it. Now, I don't know if you can hear this, but it's ticking away in there. I don't know if my mic will pick it up. But it's ticking in there, like something is winding up. It's just constantly going off.
But the Rug Lady incident, it's just like another example of inappropriate behavior for a medium. Also, not just speaking of Amie, like other TikTok mediums do this crap too. Like it seems to be a sickness, a TikTok plague of some sort that just like throws common decency out the window. But this leads us into another issue: exploiting other creators' grief. All right, the first one is Mama Tot. I'm not going to get into the details of like who Mama Tot is or whatever. Just know they're a big creator on TikTok, and the woman, her son, was unalived by somebody. So then she went to TikTok sort of asking like anyone for help to find who did it and find out what happened and all that. From there, then people were like tagging Amie and were like, Amie, you should connect with Mama Tot and help her figure out what happened to her son. I just think it's really weird. Just to not beat around the bush, I think it's inappropriate. Some people have since said, oh, well, they were friends before this, so it's okay. But it's like, they did this and they put it all on TikTok. Like they put like this whole thing on display. And like, I don't necessarily blame Mama Tot for it, because Mama Tot was grieving and in shock and was reaching out to the public for answers. And to be honest, the public and tips from the public, the majority of the time, is how they solve cases like this. Like public helps the cops solve cases more than other clues. Like CSI and stuff is not as effective as the public, right? So I understand why Mama Tot went public with it. And I understand too that she's grieving and probably not thinking straight. Like, I don't fully blame her for it, but like the medium should know better if she's a real medium that respects the dead. It seemed very exploitative of Mama Tot's grief. When someone's in this grieving state too, like they'll agree to things and they're in a bad state. Like it's like taking advantage of someone when they don't have all their faculties. And this is the problem with mediums, is all mediums do this, right? That's what some people don't understand. Like they're like, oh, well, the person's going into it willingly. It's like, no, they're not in their right mind though. And when they look back on it one day, when they get some clarity, they're going to regret that they did that, or they're going to see that they were exploited. Eventually, they do realize it. It might take like decades, but it does usually happen eventually. The other example too is Aaron Carter. Amie was saying that she was connecting with Aaron Carter, but just try to understand how gross it is to put this stuff on display. And yes, she got the family's permission to do a public TikTok, but again, the family is grieving. They're not in the right mindset to be allowing millions of people to hear about this stuff. If you look in the comment here, she says, they said, oh, you know, did he die? And she's like, it's an accident. And she tells people that, right? Because it was up in the air. They didn't know. That was in 2022. In 2023, the LA County Department Medical Examiner did rule officially that it was an accident due to drugs. The issue though here is, yeah, she got it right this time. And it was kind of like, everyone kind of knew, like in the story of the news. But if she didn't get it right, then she's spreading misinformation. It can mess with the family. It can mess with a case too. It can mess with eyewitnesses. This is the problem with psychics or even ghost hunters who go in and do this stuff and spread misinformation without knowing the for sure answer. And they can't know the answer for sure. You know, she made an educated guess, and that's what psychics pretty much do. But that doesn't mean that she's psychic. You know how many times I did that too? All psychics do this. They do educated guesses. I've noticed this. I've seen some TikToks where I couldn't quite, some of the timelines I could figure out, some of them I couldn't, where she would go and say that she's hearing from someone who passed. And then she would say, like, essentially sounding like she was saying to the family, get in touch with me so we can talk. So it's like, she's going public already with these messages before the family agrees to it. And there is an example I'll show you of one. All right, I'm deep into editing this, and I kind of discovered this when I was gathering some clips up together. This one makes me really angry. And I mean, I just watched Hannah's clip again, so I'm kind of riled up. I'm going to play you what she said about channeling Gabby Petito. I have a lot to say about this.
Okay, so most of y'all know that I'm huge into signs. What if I told you that I may get the honor of channeling Gabby Petito or her family? Let me tell you how this happened.
She hasn't even finished talking to the family yet and gotten their permission to do this TikTok. Okay, first of all, very disrespectful.
Last, I would have to say 2 weeks. Gabby has been showing up in my life. The name showed up on my spirit box. I still have yet to channel.
She's laying this up. This is a hot reading thing, I don't know what the word is for this, but it's important. She's laying some groundwork here to make something seem miraculous that isn't. It's something she planned. Let's watch.
A person named Gabby. I have actually rewatched about her case last week. Normally don't do that. Today I was supposed to go live with David Meltzer, and he was having some technical difficulties, so we were unable to do that. Another person on here named Justin. I'll tag him in the caption. I saw that he was live, and because I couldn't go live with David, I said, you know what? Instead of me going and relaxing, I'm going to go live with Justin. We started talking, and he brought up Gabby Petito. And I said, it's weird because I'm thinking about her a lot. She's been popping up in my brain. He says, would you ever want to channel her? I can get you in connection with her parents. The real kicker in all of this, sorry, I almost cried, is when I said, Justin, I'm going to go ahead and message you and I'm going to exchange information with you so we can get this started. I went to his profile. And back in October, this past October, I was in Las Vegas doing a show and I saw that he was there. I messaged him. I got busy. I never checked my messages again. I went back on my messages so we can exchange information. And look at the message that he sent me back in October. I said, we're both in Vegas at the same time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a message that you didn't definitely see and didn't have Gabby's name on the top of your head for the last few months. So every time you did a spirit box or some other crap, if you heard Gabby or any of their names, then you would have brought it forward because you're trying to set yourself up to do a freaking reading. So you can also do this. Oh, look, who's selling this freaking horrible situation on her goddamn Patreon? Like, my God. I was in a relationship with DB involved like this too. And like, thankfully nothing happened to me. But my God, if something happened to me and some TikTok psychic went and sold this, like, I would be so angry. This is wrong, what she's doing. This is absolutely horrible. Criticism from other mediums. I found this TikTok very intriguing. I couldn't confirm the details of some of it. And I do realize that the person's TikTok is also a medium. You know, and you know how I feel about mediums. But I just found that her TikTok was really accurate and concise about her review of Amie. So I'm going to include part of her TikToks. I know she has like a part 2, but I'm just including the parts that are valid towards this. Now, she talks about some incident that apparently Amie was in at some point that had to do with a Native American tribe or something. I could not find the details of this, but what I found interesting is also I saw multiple people on Reddit. They were saying that Amie was involved in an incident around the time of COVID starting, so maybe 2020, and that it caused a bunch of controversy for her. but I couldn't find this incident that they're talking about. And I'm really trying to like dig it up, and it seems to be buried, whatever it is. I did reply to this creator on TikTok as well to see if they remember what this native incident is too, because I'm kind of curious about it. Take a look at this TikTok. I just found it interesting. I'm going to put this here again for you guys to consume and create your own opinion.
Oh man, this is a really big question. I didn't know who she was prior to this, so thank you for giving me some time to look into her. I'm going to structure this probably in multiple videos because I do have a lot of thoughts and I just went through a lot of her stuff. The first thing I want to do is tell you my initial impression of her. Then we're going to go through some factual things that happened that I found. After that, I will go ahead and give you my opinion on her as a medium. So let's go. All right, my initial impression was that she wasn't very genuine. Part of this was because of her personality online, although this could be a TikTok thing. I know a lot of people, to get views, they talk in a very expressive manner, I guess. And if that's not natural for you, it could come off fake. So I'm going to keep that in mind with my initial impression. Number 2, let's look at the facts. This might be kind of long. There's a lot here. So the first one is the Indian reservation incident. This was, from what I heard, illegal and very rude, and hurt a lot of natives, and she didn't apologize in the way that she should have. The next thing is she posts videos of her readings, and these are things that people can choose to do, so there is that, right? She gives them the option. However, it does feel like she doesn't really care about their emotions on those videos. There was one in particular where somebody's mom was unalived without their consent, and she was continually talking about the details of the passing, not like of the person or anything that was really emotional. It was more like physical things that happened, and the sitter was crying about it, and she didn't really comfort her in any way. It came off very odd to me. She does have some videos that she does just give really good details, and she seems genuine though as well, so let's keep that in mind. Another thing I noticed is that she will jump on trends a lot, whether it's with Mama Tot, bless her soul, I hope everything's okay with her, and other creators that have people that have been unalived without their consent. She will give a reading, even though she, I hope, knows that that is relatively disrespectful in the mediumship community. As a medium, you're not supposed to give readings without your consent. Another thing that I saw was with the mentalist, I believe, his name was Dean. He offered her a mediumship prize to prove she was a medium. And she initially said yes, but eventually just stopped talking to him altogether, which was quite odd to me. Oh, and with the videos of the more trendy people that are happening, she tends to give info that's already out there, which was also very interesting.
Customer reviews. There's a lot of client reviews that are on her website and other things that she's obviously curated, right? So it's often hard to find real reviews, like honest ones and ones about what the bad things are about a medium, because they usually try to hide it through different ways of burying it. So I found so far in looking at these mediums is I'll look on Reddit, because it's harder to get stuff removed on Reddit than to get it removed from like a search engine to try to, what they do normally, because I used to work in some marketing, is you will add more stuff to push reviews down, or you can even do takedown requests at most places. Reddit is actually quite difficult to get stuff removed. So I found Reddit has honest reviews about like what has happened to someone. So I have some reviews from people on Reddit who like did readings with her, and we're going to take a look at that. As well, I did find a TikTok of someone talking about what happened to them when they did her workshop too. So I found that one pretty interesting, and I'll include some of that. I'll try to, I think it's pretty long, so I'll try to like cut it down to anything that might be interesting to you guys and see what you think as well. All right, so let's first read some reviews. This review was 6 months ago. I had a reading with her. She was booked out a year at the time. I paid about $1,000 for 1 hour. That's a lot of money. I made it a point to not feed her any cues that would lead her to any particular conclusion. And honestly, she really didn't give me anything specific in return. I was staying at an Airbnb at the time because I was visiting someone. The Airbnb was much nicer than my little apartment at home, and she described the vibes of my home and the way it looked situated off camera. She talked about how the couch wrapped around and how nice the decorations were. It wasn't even correct, and in reality, it wasn't my home at all, and the couch I had at the time was 15 years old and really gross. She also asked if I had a rocky relationship with my stepmother, which I didn't. She seemed surprised when I told her that we got along quite well. Anyways, that's just my experience. I think she might be a very smart person who can read people really well socially. But as far as connecting to my spirits and past loved ones, I'm doubtful. All right. And this review, this is someone who was going to book with her, but then they changed their mind. They said, I was feeling her at first. This is 2 years ago. They said, I was feeling her at first, but now I see right through her. Recently, she was asking folks to send money to her Cash App and not on TikTok because TikTok is taking a huge cut. That's in quotes. So that she said that. She charges an insane amount for sessions and tells everyone, and these are in quotes, well, anyone who doesn't charge a lot and has open availability, it's because they're not good.
Which means what?
Huge pick-me energy right there. Wow. They go on to say, meanwhile, she's bragging about the big house and the land that they just got. It also feels icky how she tells people in her live streams about every session and all the people's personal information. So all of her customers, she tells their personal information during her live stream.
So 2 nights ago, I was having my sessions, and this one. So I had a session with a client last night. I had a session about a month ago, and it still stays with me to this day. This gentleman had a session. Oh, last night I had this.
And she's clout chasing and name dropping, and they go on to talk about Aaron Carter, for instance. It's all gross, and it takes advantage of people's grief. All right, now this other person here, this is 9 months ago. They go on to say she has such a long wait list. Also, the form you fill out asks so much personal information. She can definitely do her research during your 1 year wait. Her readings are like $700 plus. That's crazy. And grieving souls are so desperate, they'd pay that and not their rent. I mean, your past loved ones would rather you pay your rent. Coming from a place of grief myself, I don't know. I'm still skeptical about her. She seems that she does cold readings. Oh yeah, and then they ask a question about something else. All right, so I did go to her website and I was starting to fill out her thing as if I was like requesting a reading. And she does that stuff. She asks like your birthday, your name, the name of the person that you want to connect with. And I did hear from multiple people, including our guest tonight too, that she asked for like a picture of the person. Like she does ask for a lot of personal information. So that is confirmed. Okay, I'm going to include here now this TikTok. I'm not sure how short I can get it. So let me see what I can do and you guys will get the result. Tell me what you think about this person. This video I'm about to play you, it was in response on the video of the Medium who was reviewing Amie, and she responded saying I took her channeling class, and then people were like, what did you think? And then this was her like thread talking about it, and then I eventually found her review video from there. I know she doesn't say Amie in her video at all. I think she said she was attacked by Amie's fans. I'm just explaining why she doesn't say Amie in the video.
It was after my diagnosis, I started looking for help because I have a curable disease. I looked for a medium here in Oklahoma. Things got a little wonky with her, but she sent me to a spiritual mentor who helped me with Reiki. And this woman that she's talking about doesn't believe in any of that. Okay, that was like my first red flag from her. And then I decided to take the channeling class because I felt like I was doing it. I just needed some validation, basically. And I got it. Now, mind you, I also signed up for her astrology crash course class. That was after the channeling class that she had in December of 2022. Now with her, you get 3 different classes. In the first class, she teaches you, you go around, you meet each other, womp. Then, the second class, she just goes over astrology. I was pretty disappointed at that point. I really wanted to end the class at that. And then the last class, you just go around and tell your stories and what you learned from her. And then you have a follow-up with her, which is a one-on-one. And all of this costs about $800. And one thing she tells you that she's going to do with you is communicate with you in Discord. And she doesn't. She'll communicate. There's 2 sides of Discords. There's the public Discord, and then there's the Discord where you are in the class with her. She does not communicate with you in the class on the Discord. She will communicate with her fans and the people who pay who follow her. I don't know, who subscribe, whatever, her Patreons. And that bothered me only because she's teaching a class that we paid for. And, we tell our stories, and, some of us aren't some of the people that were in class with me weren't as spiritual as I was, and she really doesn't have that warm feeling of like, she truly that she truly cares. It's just about money. It's about making money, and it's about her being on TV, being on podcast, and, using these miracle boxes and these apps on these phones, which I find really, really weird because she made a video of her basically making fun of people who half crystals, half tarot cards, and use divination keys that way, or pendulums, but you're going to use an app on your cell phone that your friend made? Shush, shush, shush.
I'm just going to pause here for a second. This is really important. I couldn't find that video of hers where she was insulting people who use tarot cards and pendulums, but like, again, pick me energy. But just note that, all right? It's really important to see the way that she criticizes other mediums because she's the best medium. This is very typical behavior of mediums who seek fame, and usually the mediums who seek fame are the ones that are grifting. That's what I have found in my experience growing up in this. Also, I did come across like a lot of videos where she's insulting other mediums, but I'm really deep in editing this, and I don't want to go back and get clips of all that. She even gets catty about mediums when she's talking to Dustin Dean, and I'm linking all of his stuff below as well.
So with that moment, I kind of put everything together, and I still haven't had my one-on-one with her yet, okay? I get my one-on-one with her 3 months later in March. The class ended in December. The class ended in December, and I had to wait till March to get my one-on-one with her. That was 15 minutes long, mind you. I should have canceled. I mean, my gut was telling me just cancel on this rude bitch. But, you know, my curiosity got the best of me. And I felt when I was on the one-on-one with her, where she was scared. I don't know. She was put off by me for some reason. But I can't put on a show. I can't put on a fake smile. And she told me I was intimidating. She was like, you're very intimidating. And I said, I know. I'm very upfront. And this is how I am. It's exhausting. Intense is the word, not intimidating. Intense. I've watched her videos on TikTok and everything before I took the class, and she sounds very warming. She sells herself very well. And I feel like a fool almost because I knew better, because I had been burned by a medium before. I believe that what you put out into the universe is what you get back. Okay? My belief system is just so accepting, and hers is just so close-minded, and it's her way or no way, and I quit watching her.
Analyzing her readings. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to analyze a couple of readings. When we do this, remember to keep in mind the techniques that these fake psychic mediums use. I'm doing this section to show people more of what to look for to understand the parlor tricks that are in use here. As well, like I said before, my John Edward video goes into all the techniques that psychics use to fake being a medium. Now, I'm only going to do 2 readings, and I'm going to try to not play the whole videos as well, just in case like they get cut out or whatever. And this happens in some of my videos. I know some people are like, oh, you didn't put this in, or like people watch it later. I'm like, yeah, because the person like copyrighted it and then I had to cut it out. We'll see if something happens later. Those of you who catch the whole video, awesome. So let me get into reviewing some of this. Also, forgot to add really quick, these clips I'm going to show you are from 2 different sessions. Each of these sessions is an hour long, and she makes a 3 to 5 minute video of the best moments of said session to put onto TikTok. Keep that in mind. This first one, I just want to point out, they explain that they label it with a skeptic became a believer, but then they go on to explain that this was her second session, which means that she's already hot reading, like she's already primed this person. And anyways, a skeptic doesn't reach out to a medium to do a reading. Like it's something that they put on their readings. Sometimes other mediums do it too, to try to sell, to say like, oh, I turned a skeptic's mind. This is the second session, so you got to remember that she is primed already. She already believes in this medium, and the medium, Amie, has information about this family. So it's not hard to pull up more information. Also, it's required to do a session with Amie, and you have to give them like the name of the person who passed, a picture of them, and a bunch of information about yourself. So it also wouldn't be hard for her to kind of look that stuff up too. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in this video at all, but she can take a picture and do a reverse image search to then find out everything about your loved one. I don't know if I made that clear in this video. I'm going to try to not play the whole clip because we're just going to try to make it transformative and fair use.
Were you going to get a tramp stamp?
I have one. And it has his name on it.
Cool. Does she drive his truck?
Okay, so first off, the truck thing, like she probably already knows about the truck, like they probably talked about it. The tramp stamp thing, she could have seen something on social media. Like there's lots of opportunity for her to see a picture of it. Remember, this is their second reading.
He's talking about my Christmas gift. He's got new earrings for Christmas before, correct?
Yeah.
He says, I'm cool like that. He says, I got I got her earrings too for Christmas.
This is her husband. Like, of course, at some point in their life, he got her earrings for Christmas. I think every woman ends up getting that present from their loved ones.
Ladybugs. Okay. What about ladybugs for her? Yeah. He just showed me ladybugs crawling on the window. What is going on with that?
Oh my gosh. My bedroom. I opened up my door one day and there were hundreds of ladybugs on the wall.
All right, ladybugs is a good guess. Also, remember my background. I grew up like psychic, doing all the psychic stuff around all the psychic people. Ladybugs is like it's a symbol. A lot of people say like, oh, it'll be like a loved one or something, a symbol of a loved one stopping by, or there's different versions of what a ladybug means. So for her to guess that there's ladybugs around, first of all, everyone ends up with a ladybug in their house at some point. But second of all, it has that symbolism there. And if this person's a true believer, they might hop on board with the symbolism of the ladybug. One more thing, Amie also said that the ladybugs were on the window, and she said it was on her wall. And window is how they usually get into the house. So, I mean, I think Amy's just using some common sense there.
I don't know if your son's fingers are ever going to be big enough for his wedding ring. I don't know why he's bringing that up.
I've worn it since he passed. So,
oh my God, that's huge.
And just to end that off, like she's wearing that the whole time during the readings. So she probably just saw the ring. Okay. And just so you know, I'm just grabbing like random ones from her TikTok here and analyzing them. You can do this with any medium and look at any of their readings and find these issues with them.
Do you have to sleep on 2 pillows at night?
Yes.
And she goes, he
Oh my God.
shoves the pillows up. She says that she lays down with you and sleeps with you. So when you take your classes off, you take them off right on the nightstand?
Yeah. Yes.
Let me just remind you guys, like 2 pillows is really common. Putting your arms under the pillows is common. Putting your glasses on the nightstand is common. These are all just guesses.
So you were with her when she crossed?
Yes.
She says, well, he was the one walking with me. She says, and it was just so frustrating because I couldn't say goodbye.
This is a husband. Of course, he was with his spouse when she passed. Like, I'm just going to add a little bit more to this in the mind of somebody who's reading body language, as I would do during my readings too, just to give you a little bit more feedback if it helps you learn. He does not seem distraught. He does not seem overly upset. So he obviously was there with her. If he missed her death and he's seeing a psychic because he feels guilty about not being there for her, he would be more distraught. And that would be like the first thing that came out of his mouth when he sat down to talk to you because of the guilt, right? So the fact that he didn't immediately blurt that out and seem more distraught about her death, that means that he was there with her when she passed. You know, it's just one of those body language things that Amie is doing.
That relationship is going pretty well right now, though, correct?
Yes.
She says it may be a marriage thing. And I go, oh, really? She says, that's fine.
I'll give her props for this, that she encourages him to remarry. There's a lot of mediums out there that don't encourage this stuff because they want people to keep coming back. And she probably is a bit better on this sort of thing because she charges so much and it's a year wait to see her anyway. So she doesn't need people to keep coming back. So at least she's letting people move on in some semblance.
She's talking about being around for Christmas.
Loved Christmas. She was Jewish.
She hadn't gone to like a synagogue or anything in a long time, though.
Yes.
She says, I'm a bad.
So he said that she loves Christmas, but she's Jewish. So Amie made a guess here saying, oh, she hasn't been to synagogue in a while. She is Jewish and loves Christmas. Amie is deducing that she might not be devout. So she makes a guess that she hadn't been to synagogue in a while. And if he said, no, she used to go to synagogue all the time, then Amie would say, oh, okay, but she wasn't overly devout and she accepted other religions and practices, especially Christmas. Like that would be her next statement if he said that she went to synagogue all the time. You know what I mean? Like these are the little things that you got to look for. This is all cold reading.
What's the significance of November?
My birthday. My birthday.
And she asks for your birthday before you go into the reading. It's on her form on her website.
He says, oh, Mr. Spick and Span just went through and cleaned up all of my clothes.
Earlier, I said it's nice that she's telling him to move on and remarry or whatever. The clothing thing, though, that gets a little iffy, because if she was like trying to set him up to say keep some of her clothes, or she's upset that you gave away some of her clothes, that then makes the person hang on to that grief and they can't move on. And this is something that mediums do to try to get people to keep coming back too. So they didn't play the rest of that. That was kind of towing a gray line for a second there. I'm not sure what the final outcome would be. As well, I'm just going to add at least a part of Hannah's analysis too, because I thought it was really good. Just to show you all that it's not just me nitpicking. I'm pointing out the techniques that people use to grift off the grieving. Please go watch her video after though. She has a lot to say about this whole situation that is very well said as well.
You're able to tell me if he knows what we buried him with.
Oh, let's see. Weird that I just saw you in pigtails in my head. And
It's almost like this client is testing the psychic medium, because why couldn't she just say what he was buried with? Cold reading number 1 is she goes, okay, for some reason I'm seeing you in pigtails. This is a woman talking about her grandfather who passed away. That's not a stretch. That is not a very crazy guess. That's not very specific. The vast majority of little girls have been in pigtails.
little family album, like a picture album. Is that a thing?
My mom made a little silk pouch to put inside his coat pocket. He had 3 granddaughters and 1 great granddaughter that he never met. So we put pictures.
Shut up!
Pigtails.
Why is she shocked? Like, I'm so confused. Why is the psychic medium like, oh my God, this is crazy? She's the one that, why? Okay. It's all this, again, this cold reading leading the person into this. This is all stuff that anybody could come up with. And also, it's not that much of a stretch to say photos. The vast majority of people who are buried are going to be buried with photos. You bury photos with your loved ones. Most people at traditional funerals where they bury somebody or somebody's cremated or they have a casket, they're going to put little stuff in there and it's going to be photos of people in there. That is not a risky thing to say, right? It's not as accurate as she's trying to make it seem. And then she wasn't accurate. It wasn't a photo album. It was a pouch with photos in it. And it wasn't her in pigtails. Like, I'm seeing you in pigtails. That's what she said. It was her daughter in pigtails. It was the man's great granddaughter in pigtails. So the psychic medium actually got everything wrong, but just because she made a few guesses of things that are common in almost every funeral, especially for a grandparent, people are like, oh my gosh.
Okay, now let's get into Amie's biggest controversy, which is the Dustin Dean Psychic Medium Challenge. Dustin Dean. I believe it was Susan Gerbic who told me this. She says, the truth doesn't sell papers. Having a headline that says psychic talks to the dead sells more than psychic exploits the dead. So when a controversy happens, it often gets buried. And what happened in this story is just crazy. I'll just do a quick summary, but we have Dustin's whole interview and I have a couple of videos I'm going to pull some clips from too. But essentially, Dustin Dean has a really cool challenge, kind of like what James Randi was doing. So he is now up to $10,000 that he challenges to psychics. And if they can prove that they're psychic, they'll win the $10,000. And the challenge, he is following Houdini's, which we'll get into. Amie found out about his challenge, accepted his challenge, tried to get a bunch of information from him, met with him for one live, was trying to cold read him. He was not giving in. And then she went quiet on him, and then suddenly her husband emailed him and was like, yeah, we're not doing this because it's unfair or something.
So my name is Dustin Dean. I'm a professional mentalist. I've been performing magic like all my life since I was a little kid, but professionally I've been doing mentalism for about 12 years now, mostly doing shows for corporate events and colleges and private events, things like that. And I'm known for replicating psychic powers and debunking them, because everything I do, I always tell my audiences that it's not real. I don't have a gift or anything like that. It's trickery. I use psychology, I use sleight of hand, all these different things to make it seem like I can read someone's mind or predict the future when I can't. A big inspiration of mine was, James Randi and Houdini and these skeptics. And I've always been passionate about using my talents that I've learned, all these skills I've learned as a mentalist to debunk people who take advantage of grieving people. So psychics. And I actually have this here. So this is my psychic challenge that I have been doing since 2021, because I dated it here and I signed it. And I've been offering $10,000 to any psychic medium who can guess what passphrase is inside this envelope. And the passphrase was something inspired by Houdini. I had someone in my life that passed away, and I'm very general about when I talk about this person because I don't want to give any hints at all to anyone about if this is a man or a woman or anything. But this is someone in my life who has passed away. And before they did, we had a passphrase that we shared with each other that in case one of us did pass away eventually, we would know if a psychic was legit, if that psychic could talk to their spirit and deliver the passphrase. This was inspired by Houdini because Houdini did the same exact thing with his wife. And no one was able to psychic. Oh, did you know about that?
I didn't know that he did a passphrase thing. Okay. Yeah.
It was revealed eventually. It was his mother's name, which I think it was Betsy or something like, or Rose or something. But he had this passphrase before he passed away because he also used to debunk psychics. He was very passionate about that. And he had this passphrase with his wife. And, it was so that and psychics, by the way, every year it was a tradition to go to his grave and attempt to do a seance to speak with Houdini. And none of them were able to figure out the passphrase. So I was inspired by that. And this person in my life was inspired by that. And we had a passphrase of our own. So a lot of people are kind of confused because they think this date that I wrote down, it's 1/23/2021. This isn't when I've had this passphrase. I've had this passphrase for years, longer than this. But this is when I decided to actually write it down, seal it in an envelope, and offer a challenge. So this has been here ever since. No psychic has even attempted. Yeah, they've been challenged. They've accepted the challenge, but then they haven't gone through with it.
And Dustin is big on TikTok. All right. So the main one, why I reached out to Dustin is because I'm going to do an episode on Amie Balesky and the issues around what she does. So Amie is one of the few that tried to take you up on your offer, right?
Yes. So I had no idea who she was at all. Like I had no idea I had never heard of her. But I made a video explaining my psychic challenge because I was challenging another psychic at the time named April. And, she didn't want to take the challenge and it was a whole thing. She said I should donate the money to charity or something. And she declined. Right. So then that went viral and Amie Balesky made a video herself without me ever acknowledging her. I didn't know who she was. She made a video saying, "Oh, Dustin, I love the idea of this challenge. I think it's a great idea. I think I would love to do this challenge. You join me on a live and I try to guess what it is." Something huge happened and we got to talk about it.
Oh, hey, boo-boo. I'm a medium. I talk to dead people professionally and I love it. I'll send you instructions how to prep for the reading and just be there and don't say anything.
One of the biggest TikTok verified mediums, the Balesky, has accepted my $1,000 psychic medium challenge. Sort of. Amie's husband and business partner reached out to me, skeptical of the challenge. He told me he needs to research my account and find out the validity of the challenge itself. He also made it extremely clear that she has not officially accepted the challenge and that this challenge might not happen at all. Regardless, there's a lot of misconceptions about my challenge, so I thought I would take the time to go through it once and for all, every complete detail about what my challenge is. Someone in my life passed away, and before they passed away, we came up with a passphrase between us. In the event that one of us did pass away, and the medium tried to contact one of us, we agreed that as a spirit, we would tell the medium this specific passphrase so that we would know the medium was genuine. Which is why this challenge is specifically for psychic mediums, because if they can contact this person in my life who passed and receive that secret passphrase, I'll know for sure they are legit. I wrote the message as physical proof because for years it has just been word of mouth between us. I signed the envelope and dated the envelope of when I started the challenge and sealed it. Only a small handful of people in my life knew what this message was before I even offered this challenge, but they can also confirm the validity of the message. And that brings me to my next point. Here's the thing. Here's where I need your help. I would like to have a verified third party to share the contents with, so that way I don't have to open the envelope as soon as someone guesses, and we can keep the challenge going if she doesn't happen to get it right. If you have any suggestions of someone who is trustworthy that would be willing to sign an NDA, comment and tag them below.
She was very enthusiastic about it. And she's, at the time, I don't remember how many followers. I think I had like 400,000 or something. And she was like, she had millions. She's like, she was verified psychic on TikTok. So that was kind of like a huge thing. And I was happy about it. It was like, okay, great. Like, here we go. We finally got someone to actually want to do it. So from there, she said she accepted, and I was like, okay, so what are the next steps going to be? So I don't remember if she messaged me first or if I messaged her, but she DM'd me on TikTok, or I did to her, and asked about it, and she said, yeah, like this would be awesome. Like, let's set it up. Let's do it. She wanted to do a live, like an initial TikTok live first before she actually attempted. She wanted to test the waters and see, like, she just said she thought it would be fun for her followers and my followers to do like this little preview.
Do you think there are fake mediums on TikTok?
I'm fine with calling it out. It's not a problem. If you're good and if you're pure and if you're clean of heart with this, is that you don't allow other vibes to get in your space.
Let's say with this challenge, you get it wrong. What are you going to do?
I'll probably get part of it wrong. Yeah, I will. I'll probably get part of it wrong. And I'm okay with that because this is the whole thing with that. I honestly want to just give you a reading.
I don't know. Some people think I would hate if you got it, or if I would hate that. But actually, it's the opposite. That would be I would poop my pants first of all on the. It'd be done.
That happened not too long after we did a live, and it was interesting. I believe the full live is still online, and I don't remember if it's on Instagram or YouTube or something. But it was very interesting. She was a little aggressive, a little I don't know. She seemed kind of standoffish a little bit. And I was being I think we were being very respectful. We weren't fighting or arguing or anything. We were just kind of sharing our viewpoints. And I did notice there were some things that I felt uncomfortable with. For example, she kept saying she would talk about this challenge, and then she would refer to the person in my life as a he. I forget, she asked a question or something and said he. And I said, well, I never mentioned if it was a he or she. I'm keeping it general, not really saying whether it's what. And to me, that kind of came off as she was trying to gauge if it is a man or a woman, in my opinion. I don't know, though. Maybe she was just...
Yeah.
She just happened to, mention it that way. And then there was the moment she didn't like that happened in that live. And, she eventually messaged me and she's like, I think you were being rude, which was kind of funny. But she tried to guess my astrological sign. She wanted to know my birthday. And I said, I don't feel comfortable giving that information. And she said, well, you're giving off, whatever she guessed. It was Aquarius energy or something. And I said, no, I'm not. She said, well, she guessed 3 different ones that would be on my chart. She guessed all 3 wrong. None of them are on any of my charts because I looked it up. I'm Scorpio. And she didn't guess anything Scorpio or anything like that. Eventually I made a video highlighting that part where she guessed wrong and all 3 things. And she got kind of upset about that. But it was a weird live. Nothing happened. She didn't try to guess what it was, but we talked about it. And then after that happened, like nothing happened. I didn't hear anything from her. And when I tried to set up something, she said, "Oh, we got to talk to my husband. He's like my manager who sets everything up." So he emailed me and he said, "Yeah, she's booked like 8 months out. So it won't be until like 8 months later to do this." And I was like, okay, that's a little strange. I was hoping we could, do it as soon as possible. And it's not like I'm trying to book a reading. It's a challenge that I offered. But I was like, okay, that's fine, I guess. And then he said, well, to do this, this was very interesting to me. He said, you need to send a picture of the person in your life that passed away. Amie needs a picture of this person to give a reading. That's how she gives her readings and gets the energy or whatever, however he worded it. And I said, wow, I've never heard of that before. But I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm not giving any information about who this person is. I just want the psychic to attempt to communicate with this person, but I don't feel comfortable certainly sending a picture, because then you could, search it up online or something and backwards search it or whatever they do. So I said no. And some time passed again. I didn't hear anything. Then I finally got an email that said she was now uncomfortable doing it because she felt that I wasn't being genuine, that I was just going to trick her, that this person in my life never existed. The whole thing doesn't exist. And they were kind of offended by my video that I made where she guessed my star signs and got them wrong. And they said they don't want to do it. So then while this is happening, she makes a video and she addresses it because people were asking her. They were like in her comments saying, hey, when are you going to do the Dustin Dean challenge? Blah, blah, blah. I was getting comments too. She made a video and she said, no, she's like, no, I didn't ghost him. I just felt like I got the vibe that this was all a trick. He's a magician. It's not genuine, blah, 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 stuff like that, basically. And then coincidentally, my TikTok account at this same time, right when this happened, right when she made this video, my account was banned permanently, is what it said. I went to go in one day and it said, your account has been permanently banned from TikTok. And I was very upset because this is something I've been working on for a long time, is TikTok. And so it was banned for about a month, and I fought really hard to get it back. I actually had another verified creator on TikTok who worked with it was like the American Atheist Association or something. And they wrote a letter to TikTok saying that this is like, biased against religious beliefs, because my belief is that I don't believe in religion, which is still a belief, and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, after a month, it was overturned. My account came back, and then that was it. I never acknowledged her ever again, and she never acknowledged me ever again. But people still do comment all the time, what about that Amie Balesky? Did she ever get it right? So I'm glad we're doing this because I can kind of share this whole story. I've never shared the whole story in public before, so I'm glad. It's good to get it off my chest.
Yeah, because a couple people mentioned her name. Like, I had no idea who she was, but I'm not like on the TikTok psychic feed because I can't deal with them that much.
I don't blame you.
So, and just a bit of my background, I grew up on the circuit. My mom was a psychic, and she raised me to be a psychic. And like I realize like now what psychic really is just people who are like hyper observant and empathetic, right?
Yeah.
Because my mom was a believer, but there were so many people that were fakers, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty open.
Yes, and I've people do ask me that a lot, like, do psychics believe what they're doing? And I've always been under the impression, from what I've seen directly, is that yes, there are a lot of them that truly, genuinely believe that what they're doing is like they're getting messages and they're really like intuitive in that way. And then I think others are definitely, they know what the hell they're doing and they know that they're scamming. And I think I can tell pretty well when that's the case. To me, it's pretty transparent, and it's a lot of the TV psychics. I'm like, there's, I can tell that they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
purposely.
yeah. It's like, yeah, all the ones who are trying to seek fame,
Yes.
Because like what she. And that's how I found her name, and I looked into her, right? Because I was like, who this is. So, and then I found your story with her on Reddit. Like, people were talking about.
Oh.
I found a bunch of dirt about her on Reddit. I have learned.
I had no idea that existed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have learned that when I'm doing research on a psychic, I look on Reddit. because
Oh, cool.
Reddit doesn't do takedown requests unless it's like, 18 plus material that shouldn't be out there. You know what I mean? So like a lot of stuff stays on Reddit and it's too hard
wow.
for PR companies to,
Oh,
So
cool.
there's a lot of dirt on her on Reddit. And
Oh my God.
there was a bunch of threads about you. And then that's how I found you. And then I started
Oh, wow.
looking through like TikToks and like things that people had like recorded and stuff about what happened. Right.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then I found out like all this reviews from people who have taken her courses or gotten readings from her, all really bad. And then I saw that she accepted your challenge and backed down. That kind of reminds me of Sylvia Brown back in the day, accepted James Randi's challenge publicly and then backed down and kept like ignoring it, right?
Yep.
And then I heard that she uses spirit boxes for her sessions, and I was like, "Oh my God, this lady's so yeah." It's like the first live that you're like talking about that just sounds like so much cold reading. Like she was trying to get information from you. Yeah,
And that's exactly. So what also happened during that live is as soon as it was over and she left, I had two people. One is his name is Spidey, and he's a mentalist as well. He's actually huge on YouTube now. It's unbelievable. He made a different account, and it's he analyzes. I forget the name. He's gonna be mad if I forget it, but he analyzes if people are lying, and he like breaks things down. And he went really viral during the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case. He was like breaking down certain things, and it's very cool. Oh, it's behavioral arts, I think, is his thing. And this was before he started that, but he joined my TikTok live and he was like breaking it down. He was like, she was giving away a lot of cues that showed that she was being not honest. Like the way she talked about a story of a specific reading she gave. And he was like, she gave a lot of tells that showed she wasn't being honest. And then after that, Ray William Johnson, I think is his name. He's like another popular YouTuber in TikTok. He joined and like he was talking about it. And me immediately after it was done, I said it seemed like she was fishing for things. She was really trying to get anything she could about this person in my life. It like as if I was going to give away something, whether it's a man or a woman, how long ago it was, things like that. In my personal opinion, obviously I don't know if this is true or not, but I think when she found out that this person she's not going to find anything online on my Facebook. She's not going to find any hints about what this might be or who this was. I think then she backed down and she knew, oh, I'm not going to get anything out of this. So that's my opinion. And then I don't know, but I think she might have had something to do with my account being banned. And she thought, all right, this is great. It's over. Because then she never acknowledged me after that. So
yeah, because like wanting to do that pre-show thing, like she was definitely fishing for stuff, and definitely she was going to reverse image the picture because there would probably be like an obituary online or something with their picture on it, because you look fairly young, so they probably died young, so there's probably stuff on social media too. And like one of my friends, well, we just did some episodes on it, but she was looking into someone who claimed to be at a haunting, a famous one that the Warrens were involved in. And she thought the story sounded fishy, so she did a reverse image of his picture because that's all she had to go on. And we found out he has like a whole offenders record, like all this stuff we found out. And it gave her his real name. And then she's like, oh, he lied about his mom. This is the true story. So it's like, you can get a lot just from a reverse image search, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because once you have like a full name and a birth date.
Which I'm curious to know, and because I did have a lot of people that would message me, like you were saying on Reddit, like a lot of people were giving reviews of her readings and stuff. They would message me during all of this and they'd be like, I just got a reading from her and it was awful. Like it was really bad and blah, blah, blah. And they wanted their money back. She wouldn't give it back. I'm curious to know if she genuinely does ask everybody for a picture of this person, because I'm willing to bet she does not. And that never happened.
So just interjecting really quick. I did watch the live that Dustin had with her, and in the live, she admitted that the picture is an optional thing in her readings, that sometimes people just send her a nickname and she's able to connect. So it is weird that was her excuse for canceling with him.
And she was just trying to get the picture of mine to really be sure and look it up. Because Because I've never heard of such a thing. I've never heard it from her. I'm pretty sure she does TikTok lives and doesn't ask people to give them images and things. But
And I also found reviews of her from other mediums, right?
oh wow.
I don't believe in mediums. Like it's all hooey. Can't talk to the dead.
Yeah.
But they were saying things that I found interesting. Other mediums were pointing out that she has been broadcasting like the results of readings to people during a live. And this was like private readings. So she was releasing personal information about her clients, which is just wrong.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah. And it's interesting how with her, like her content, I guess, started like she was like she did cooking stuff, or like she taught how to cook things, and like that was her whole thing. And then she like slowly crept in the psychic stuff. And then I don't know what she does. I haven't seen any videos of her recently, but I assume she just does the psychic stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you hear about that rug lady on TikTok? The lady who found the rug that was buried in her backyard?
Yes. A lot of psychics jumped in.
The psychic that helped her was her. That's who came to her house. Yeah. I didn't realize who it was at first, and I watched it, and then I was like getting ready, looking at notes for this, and I was like, oh, she went to the rug lady's house. I'm like, oh man.
That's funny because that's so funny because I was keeping track of that whole thing because I was curious. And I had a feeling, I was like, I know psychics are going to jump in on this. And I made a comment on one of her videos. I think it's like she said, oh, a psychic contacted me or something. And I said, oh, here we go. I knew this was going to happen. And sure enough, it did. It's like they knew, oh, this is going to be good press. Like this is going to be all over the news. I got to jump on this because it's and I also thought it was such a ridiculous thing because, no matter what they say, it's they didn't find anything, but of course the psychic is going to be like, oh no, I think something's up with it, no matter what. Like, it's just such a silly thing to me.
Yeah, because her neighbor did pass. Like she was a senior, she was old, she passed.
Yeah.
So like that's what a lot of the focus was around, is like this neighbor, right? And it's just like she can just make stuff up. Like, the lady just passed. Her name's in the papers. Like it's not hard to find her, easy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so ridiculous. Right. It was psychics getting a start. This is what I've noticed on TikTok. Is like someone's trying to become TikTok famous and they'll try different angles. And I've noticed like a bunch of these psychics, I look back and they're like, they tried makeup. They tried, Reddit stories. They tried true crime. Like they tried all these things before suddenly they're psychic out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
I've noticed that too. And I proved it on TikTok. I used to say that paranormal content on TikTok and psychic content and things, like it is so easy to go viral with that content on TikTok. It's huge. And I proved that point because I've made, in the past, I made a fake haunted doll TikTok account that went massively viral in a week. It got 20 million views, like over 200,000 followers. And it was this little haunted doll called Charlotte, and went massively viral. And I made a fake account. I made this all up, and I made like haunted things happen around the doll, and that seemed believable, even though it's ridiculous. Crazy viral. And then I eventually revealed that it was just me the whole time. Like it was a fake doll I bought off of Etsy. It was funny because I bought the doll off Etsy and never thinking that it's going to go so viral that the Etsy owner would see it. But they eventually did. And they were like furious at this page because they're like, that's not a real haunted doll. Like I make them. So when I found that out, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like it's me. This is a fake, thing I came up with. But yeah, so easy. It took me, I went viral immediately with that. And it's so easy to fake. And like anyone could do it. I also did it with a psychic medium account where I took my friend, her name is Liz. And I basically gave her a character name. And I said, let's make a fake psychic account where you're trying to communicate with spirits, but pictures behind you are moving on their own and you don't even realize it. That was a big one because that also went viral. The intent was to see if we could get a psychic on TikTok to comment and say that they feel the energy from it, or it seems like it's, whatever they would say. And we did. We had someone who was kind of like a rival on TikTok to me, and her name is Kelsey Davies. She's another huge TikTok verified psychic. And she commented and said, I can tell that the spirit is a negative energy. So then when I eventually revealed it was me, it was pretty funny because I said, oh, well, I mean, unless you were sensing me and maybe I'm negative, but it wasn't a real fear.
What did the doll look like? I feel like I heard this story.
Yeah, so the doll is like she's got one eye and she looks like she's been in a fire or something. And she's got a purple dress on. It made headlines. It was on Fox News. It was in like some Australian thing somehow, some news thing I looked up. And Fox News actually interviewed me about it about debunking paranormal stuff. But yeah, it was very interesting. I didn't expect it to blow up so much. And it's still being used today. Like random like spooky accounts like use the videos of Charlotte and like post them. But
I feel like that's where I've seen it is like on a Nuke's top 5 or Slapjam or something.
Yeah, it was
like
on
that.
a top thing. Some YouTube channel did it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I heard later that it was debunked that the person was just doing it. There's another one where the guy was like, I think he had VFX or props designers, and he had a doll and it was moving around and dancing, but he showed the batteries were out of the back.
That was mine.
Oh, was that yours?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was so what I did is I had I debunked originally. There was someone on TikTok it was this girl and she made a video of this same doll. It's a Cabbage Patch doll, and she showed that were no batteries. And I did a video debunking it and saying how this could be done. And she was on the news and everything. And I said, well, and she kept fighting me about it. She was like, no one's rewired anything, blah, 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 blah. So that gave me the idea. I was like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. But I got the same doll. And all I simply did was rewired it, because I know how to wire things. I work with electronics. So I rewired a battery pack into her head and like hid it in there. It's like a tiny battery pack. So I rewired it. And that way, when I could show that there were no batteries. So what I did is I took a video of Charlotte standing there and I said, oh, this is weird. This happens every time I put another doll near Charlotte. And I had the Cabbage Patch doll and it was just dancing around, making noise, and showed there were no batteries. And that's the one that went extremely viral with Charlotte.
Yeah, that because that's what I seen, and then it was like later they're like, oh, this was debunked. The guy did it as like a social experiment thing or whatever to prove. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting.
Yep.
And then recently too, I don't know if you watched John Wolfe at all, but he proved that Nukes he's been adding sound effects to clips that aren't spooky, and then adding them to his video to say they're spooky clips, right?
Oh,
I'm
wow.
just like, the lengths people are going to, and the thing is, like, people fall for it. I don't know, people are really into the paranormal stuff, which I get. Like I was always, I did ghost hunting, I was really into it for a long time.
Me as a kid, for sure. Like for up and through until I was a teenager, I was so interested in it. I used to watch all the shows and everything.
Yeah, and it was similar, kind of like with your friend. I had like a best friend, like I knew her from a very young age, and we were ghost hunting together, and then she passed like really fast, right? Like it was pretty sudden, and she never like came to visit or gave a sign or anything, and that's when I was like, maybe this stuff isn't real, because like she was in it with me, right? I'm like, if anyone were to visit, it'd be her. And then I had a friend who was like a sister to me, and she passed very suddenly, like 7 months later. And again, nothing. And I was like, I think ghosts are real. I think something else is going on. If like the majority are just fake, right? A lot of people fake them. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because we're gonna deep dive on this lady that you dealt with, because I think I like the idea that people are doing challenges again, like, to replace James Randi, because I know CFI is doing a $500,000 and then you're hitting up TikTok, because like a lot of us don't have reach on TikTok, whereas I think you have.
I actually just went for a while. I was trying to figure out, I kind of went in a burnout mode, and I like, because I also perform, right? So I'm a performer. That's my main job, is I go around, I tour, and I do shows. And so for a while it was like, I kind of put TikTok on the back burner, mostly because I was like, man, I don't know what content I can do that I can keep repeating. Because usually it's kind of like when topical things come up about psychics, that's when I make a video and react to it. But I did a video yesterday or 2 days ago, and it went viral. And it was me breaking down Teresa Caputo, because she was the Long Island Medium. She was just on, she's on the Drew Barrymore show. And there were clips of her giving this reading to her audience on the Drew Barrymore show. And it was very transparent. It was like a very bad cold read. So I broke it down like bit by bit, every step. I said, okay, this is what she's doing. And I was like, man, if this does well, this could be something I want to do, is just like find these psychic readings that people post or put, TV psychics, and like break it down. And since that did well, I think that's what I'm going to be mainly doing. And I'm going to try to find mostly like either TV psychics or TikTok psychics, and do that. So.
Yeah, people really like it. Like, my psychic debunk videos do the best out of all my videos, but I like to make sure I properly research them. So it takes me a while to like get through each psychic. Teresa's really good actually too. I got a story from Susan Gerbic about Teresa and how she preps the audience ahead of time.
I think
am planning to do her at some point.
Out of all the TV psychics I've seen, I think she might be the worst at cold reading and things. Like they're all very transparent to me that I've seen. Except for people will say, like, I keep getting comments now. They're like, yeah, but what about her one-on-one she does on her show? Like, those are really good. And I'm like, use critical thinking. Why do you think it's better when it's her show one-on-one? Why do you think that's better than when she goes and has to do it live in front of an audience? Like, the answer is right there. Yeah, I think the challenge is great. Houdini was the first one to do the challenge that I know of, and his was 10,000, which was an insane amount of money back then.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah. And then James Randi obviously he brought it up, and he started at 10,000, but then it went up to $1 million. I'm very good friends with he was a student of James Randi, and now he is the leader of the James Randi Foundation, and it's Banachek, who is a mentalist as well, Stephen Shaw. And he's starting, because he's a performer as well. That's his main thing. He's a mentalist. But he's starting to really put a lot more effort back into the debunking psychics side of things. He took a break from it because, as he says, it got, even with James Randi, it got kind of crazy. Like, sometimes people get really, offended or like violent and things. He was saying he had some stories about that with James Randi, but we talk a lot, and we've been talking about like working together and figuring some things out. But it's very cool. It's an interesting thing. I'm hoping that eventually he kind of really revives the James Randi Foundation and offers the same challenge again. But maybe I can talk him into it. I think that would be cool.
It would be interesting to have some different challenge options for people too.
Yeah.
I just think it's great because it's something else that there was recently an exorcist who's shown up now on social media, but now everyone's response to him is, why don't you go do the challenge? Did you sign up for the challenge yet? So that's what everyone's responding to him with now. So I'm like, that's the best way to shut him up, because he shuts up after that.
There is someone I've been seeing recently, and I have no idea. I forget it's like a weird name, because he's one of those, he channels like a ancient alien spirit thing. And he like goes into a trance in a character, and like people like really are buying into this. Like, it's insane. He like gives all these talks and lectures as his alien character thing. The problem with that is what's so kind of clever about it is there's no way to truly debunk that. Like, it's so hard to be like, oh, well, you're just faking it, like there's no way he's not doing anything that's like impressive. He's just saying like, oh, I'm an alien now talking to you. It's interesting.
Yeah. Like, I had someone leave a comment, ask me about him. I heard about him a long time ago. He's been around for a while. But someone left a comment asking me about him, and I was like, they're like, what do you think about that psychic who channels an alien who's in space near Earth? And I was like, I answered back, read your comment out loud and tell me that that's normal.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. And that's thing that, like, people were doing stuff like that in the 70s too.
Yeah.
There was like the cults and stuff, dumb crap like that. I have been thinking about doing like breakdown videos as well, because like it's techniques and certain things that you see, and they were looking at body language and stuff, and a lot of the like editing also plays a big role in it. And that's why I try to remind people, like, all this stuff is heavily edited, and you don't see all the misses, right?
Yeah, and then people who have stories that they're like, oh, well, I was there in person. It's like, it's designed to make you forget the misses so that you only remember the hits. And that's a technique that magicians have been using for years. We call it, false memories. We try to literally design our tricks and our routines so that you forget the suspicious stuff and that you only remember like the impressive stuff. For example, like, there might be a trick a magician does where later, the person you did it to is like, oh, he never touched the cards, but somehow I counted down and the number I named was the card I thought of. Like they completely, which is just not true. It's designed to make them forget that the magician touched the cards. So it's very similar to psychics. Like they make you forget the misses.
Yeah, and Susan actually does a lot of good breakdowns of that lately. She's been playing the recording of a reading and then also comparing it to the review that people left. And she's like,
Oh,
no, the
cool.
person never said that. You offered that, and here's the recording, right? And like that's what people need to like realize is like, and a lot of these Zoom psychics that Susan's handling too, they're not allowing people to record it because they don't want people to play it back.
Right. That makes sense.
I would say there's probably like 40% of the industry believes that they're truly psychic and like 60% are really faking it. And it's the ones that seek fame and like these big, like they are always faking it because the only way that you're going to build up that big and be able to that well is by faking it, knowing the techniques to.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. In fact, one of my next targets is a big one for me that he has me blocked. Actually, a lot of psychics have me blocked on TikTok that I haven't talked about yet or anything. It's just always funny when I go to look them up and I'm like, oh, they have me blocked already. But, you know, one was John Edward. He had me blocked because he started to do like TikTok lives and really getting into TikTok, which I did a video on him. And then one right now that is very seriously bothering me. And I almost want to make him my like rival because we're he's younger than me. I think he's only like, I think he's a few years younger than me, but it's Tyler Henry.
Tyler Henry?
Yeah.
I just did a video on him. I'll send you the link to my video. Yeah. I did a big breakdown on him, and I also explained the brain scan and why it's all nonsense. Yeah.
That's a big thing to me, and I wish I almost wish I would have touched base with you before because that is a huge. I told Susan before, I was like, I'm really doing a deep dive on this brain scan thing because I saw a clip, and that's what bothered. That's what began what bothered me because I saw a clip of Steve-O or whatever, and he was that doctor who's like a TV doctor. I don't remember.
Yeah, he's just a TV doctor.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
And he like, this is undeniable. And people in the comments are like, this is undeniable proof that psychic powers exist. So I did a deep dive on it, and I found also that a mentalist like me, who's very clearly a mentalist and a magician, not a psychic, I looked up to see if this has ever happened before. If there's ever been anyone who had an EEG or whatever it was.
It's a QEEG, which aren't recognized by the scientific.
So there was another mentalist like me who had one done in an official study to see if there was any unusual brain activity while he was giving a reading, which he did a drawing, what's called in magic, a drawing duplication, where someone draws something and you replicate it. It was shown that his had unusual activity for this mentalist. And this was in like 2014 or something. So I was like, man, now I want to do that. I would love to get one done and see if I can do the same thing and get something unusual, because that bothered me. And then a couple other things about him bothered me was one, a friend of mine who's a magician went to one of his shows and he took so many notes and pictures. He took a picture of how before his show, he has a QR code, a giant QR code up on a screen, and it says, like sign up for emails or whatever, sign up to the newsletter. And I'm like, that is the most obvious thing for back in the day. Like if I were to do that as a mentalist, if I said, oh, sign up for it, like give me your information, is basically what is happening. He's like, give me your information right now before the show. That's so silly to me. Like he could easily look these people up and get information that way. Just the way I've seen him perform. Susan brought it to my attention. She showed me that clip where he like pulled a prediction out of his pocket and it was like a name.
Oh yeah, the mentalist.
I was like, that is not what a psychic would do. That's a magician thing. That's a mentalist thing. That's the most ridiculous I've ever seen in my life, that he tried to pass that off as like a psychic thing. So yeah, I don't know. It interests me, but he has me blocked as well on TikTok, which is funny.
Yeah, I'll send you everything that I dug up on him in my video and everything, because also look at my comments too. And I'll take a screenshot of one that's I actually pinned it so you'll see it. But it explains this guy went to one of his shows, and before the show they were encouraging everyone to share on social media that they were going to be at the show. So then they'd have access to your social media. And then he was like, when he arrived, his mom was there, like making sure that everyone sat in their assigned seats.
Yes,
You
I've
could
heard-
not switch seats.
That's what my friend said about his mom was like very controlling of things.
Yeah. So my theory is, and I'd like to dig up some more about his grandma. So his mother's mother kidnapped her when she was a baby. She kidnapped her, stole her from her family. His grandmother was a con artist. She would make the kids go into churches and beg for money and do different cons and stuff, right? And the thing is, like, I think his mom is the con artist and is making him do these things. And I think that's why he sweats and gets so nervous all the time. Because I think he actually has some, like, guilt over what he's doing. And they're just saying that that's him sweating because his brain is working so powerfully to contact the dead. And I'm like, no, that's guilt. I think that's guilt. I think his mom is making him do this crap.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, like, he's someone, because a lot of people in my comments and stuff, like, they're like, no, he's like, okay, but Tyler Henry is the real deal. He seems very genuine, and like, it is far from the real deal. Like, he does the most, he mostly like reads celebrities that we all know information about that you can easily look up anyways. And even me and my magician friend, when he went, you know, and he took notes, what was really fascinating to us was that he was using techniques that we know as mentalists or have learned from other mentalists, like specific mentalists, like Luke Germain is a big mentalist that we all learn from and we respect as mentalists. And there were some like things that he had directly from Luke Germain's teaching, which was really weird. And I thought, and also the way he does his scribbling, he uses like a in like his show, it's like a portfolio or like a pad or like a folder thing. And that's a technique that mentalists have used as like crib sheets, where you have like some hot information written down, hidden, and then, you know, you pretend you're kind of writing and you're able to move it and see the hot information so you can recall it. And, you know, obviously I don't know if that's what he's doing, but it's definitely something he could be doing.
I feel like it's something that he's doing, or like he's got some impressions on the paper or something, like, because he does give the scribbles away. So my thought is, I think he writes really hard on his hot notes, and then he rips that piece off, and then he scribbles on the impression.
Because my friend who said that he noticed he kept avoiding one spot. He would go to all these other spots, but there was like one spot in particular and it was like the top left or top right or something that he was like avoiding. And it seemed like he would like slide something down and look at it, and maybe there's something like that. And I thought that was really interesting. Seems like what a magician would do, which is suspicious.
Yeah, like, and it's a whole portfolio. There's other pockets and stuff in it. So like, I'm sure he's got other stuff hidden.
And that's what I told him. And another thing that was crazy is the guy I was talking about, Banachek, who was James Randi's student, released his biggest release to the magic community was something called psychic padfolio. And it's a technique where it's literally a padfolio thing, like a black one. And he's able to secretly sneak information that he has like in the pockets, in little billets and stuff. And you can, as you're writing things down, you're getting these impressions, but you're secretly looking at the information. It's like, I almost had the theory that Tyler like learned from mentalists to become this kind of con artist, like psychic. And it's very interesting to me. So that's why I'm really interested in challenging him and looking into it more, because I don't know, something about him is just, it's different than other psychics to me. Like, I feel like he's, like you said, like he could be like, he was driven by his mother to be a con artist and really learned all these con artist things. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, his story is interesting. And I think like Hollywood snatched him up because like Susan was saying that she had a theory with her late partner that Hollywood was looking for some like young boy next door kind of cool psychic to sell to the young kids, right? Because otherwise all the psychics are kind of like middle-aged women kind of deal, are attracted, right? So I'm like, yeah, it set Tyler apart, but and his excuse all the time is like, oh, I don't know anything about this celebrity. I don't know this. It's like, you can just look it up. And he looks on their social media. That's where he's like primarily looks at social, I found, because I have linked a lot of his stuff back to a few months. He'll go a few months back and find something that sounds really good that you may have forgotten because it's only been a few months, but it's recent enough that you'll remember the details, and then he'll hit on.
Crazy. That's interesting. Oh, very cool. I always say it's great that we have, more people working on debunking these psychics, because that's what I think. I mean, I feel like it's impossible for it to ever end. I think it will go on forever, that you have people are going to find ways to con people in this area of things, because there's always people that are going to believe no matter what. But I think the best course of action is for us to all, the more people we have debunking things and sharing, well, this is an alternative view, I think the better. I think that's just the best we can do, and that's what's going to help.
Yeah. It's tough though, because people want to believe so much. So it's like us debunkers out here trying to get like through to them, but a lot of people also aren't ready to change their views yet. It's like they get angry if you challenge their views, right?
But yeah, it's like we're going against the grain, which is it's always been so funny to me. It's like ironic that these people are usually the ones that are like, keep your mind open, like have an open mind about this. And it's realistically, it's like, well, if you think about it, you're not having an open mind, because you're like, I don't want to think about what the other alternatives could be. I believe that this is this. I believe that this person has, I've seen psychic things before, so I believe they're psychic. So to me, it's like, well, you don't have the open mind, at least I'm like thinking of alternative things that it could be, rather than just saying, like, oh, no, it must be genuine psychic powers.
Yeah. And it's like, and I'm a skeptical believer. Like I still have beliefs and I have a religion that I follow and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, like I grew up my whole life thinking I was psychic. And it's just when some people died that were close to me and just like nothing came through, it just made me like question everything. And then I kind of have gone back now and looked with like a different point. And over the last year or two is like I've been looking at more and more fake psychics, because I was doing YouTube videos and I was like, I wanted to do the history of things, right? And when I started looking into stories, because I was actually doing the proper research of history, and I looked at the stories and I was like, oh, this is bad. Like Sylvia Brown had like fraud charges. The FBI was investigating her for securities fraud and all this other stuff. And people have to be ready in that mindset to want to hear it. But yeah, so let's end it off with just plugging anything that you want to plug. And also after to send me all your links and stuff so I can put it in the video.
Sure. Yeah. So you can follow me over on TikTok at Dustin Dean Mentalist. Pretty much all of my social media things are under at Dustin Dean Mentalist. TikTok is my main thing, but I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. YouTube, although I don't make a ton of YouTube content, but hopefully that will change. I would like to. And you can also go to my website at dustindeanmentalist.com, where I share a lot of my performances and tours and shows and all that sort of thing.
All right, awesome. Because I want to kind of just like spread the word too. There's more than even just the CFI challenge. Like there's other people out here doing challenges, right? Yeah. So like point people in all these different directions, Yeah. I like your challenge though with the passcode thing. I didn't realize that Houdini was doing that. I know he was fighting psychics, but I didn't realize that he had a passcode, like a thing like that. So that's really interesting.
His wife, I mean, it's fine that she did. She eventually, after however many years, she gave up the passcode, which is fine. I mean, it's fine. It's not like, I mean, she could have like passed it down to her kids and stuff like that. But I think she proved the point was proven that like all these years, no one was able to do it. But it was pretty cool. It was an interesting thing, and it always inspired me. And I actually see a lot of people in my comments now who are saying the same thing, like, oh, I've done the same thing now with someone close to me. I've done the same thing with my father, So I think that's a cool message to get out there. If people start doing that, then, it's going to be harder for psychics later on to kind of, do what they're doing. But I'm sure they'll come up with they always do come up with an excuse and say like, oh, well, it doesn't work like that. They don't talk and give me a passphrase or something. But
there's just things that all psychics end up saying. And it's stuff like that. Like, oh, they don't speak in this method, or, oh, they don't do this. And it's just like, I just recognize that talk, Yeah. Thank you for coming to talk about everything. And well, I do appreciate it. Yeah.
It was great to get the story out there and talk about it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Folks, all of Dustin's stuff is linked below. So please do go make sure that you follow him, especially on TikTok, because a lot of us aren't there. So he has a good reach there to hit what we are unable to hit there. So what's the takeaway from all this? Well, it's clear that the world of TikTok psychics is a very messy one. From intuition to manipulation, as we seek guidance and insight from these mystics, it's essential to approach their claims with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. But tell me, have you had any experiences like this? Or, leave a comment below and let me know your story. And if you're new here, or if you're, coming back, don't forget to like, and if you're new, subscribe. Leave some comments below as well. It helps with the algorithm too. And I just want to also thank our members as well of the channel. It's very much appreciated for all the support that you give. It does mean a lot. But that is it for today's psychic video. So until next time, don't worry about what to watch next because I have linked a video, or if you want to sit and watch things for a little bit longer, a whole playlist on the side here. Go ahead and click those now to keep watching.